I stood in the marble lobby of Dataflow Technologies, clutching the merger documents that represented 2 years of my life's work. The $4 billion deal with Steinberg International was minutes from being signed when Victoria Hamilton stormed across the polished floor in designer heels, waving the employee handbook like a weapon. Her voice cut through the morning silence as she pointed at my navy blazer. "Did you even read the dress code? You're fired." The words hit me like ice water as Robert Steinberg himself stepped through the glass doors, witnessing my public humiliation. 6 months earlier, I walked through those same glass doors for the first time as Cleo Martinez, senior analyst at Dataflow Technologies. The Austin, Texas headquarters buzzed with energy that October morning as I reported to David Hamilton, Vice President of Strategic Development. His corner office overlooked the Colorado River, and sunlight streamed across financial reports scattered on his mahogany desk. "Cleo, I'll be direct with you," David said, his gray eyes serious behind wire-rimmed glasses. "We're pursuing the largest merger in company history with Steinberg International. I need someone who can navigate European business culture while understanding American market dynamics. Your background in international finance makes you perfect for this role." I had spent 3 years at Goldman Sachs before moving to Austin for a better work-life balance. My expertise in cross-border acquisitions and fluency in German had caught Dataflow's attention. The Steinberg opportunity represented everything I'd worked toward, a chance to lead a transformational deal worth $4 billion. "What's the timeline?" I asked, accepting the thick folder of preliminary documents. 18 months from analysis to signature," David replied. "Robert Steinberg is old-school European. He values relationships and thoroughness over flashy presentations. You'll be working directly with their executive team in Frankfurt." Over the following weeks, I immersed myself in Dataflow's operations. The company specialized in cloud-based data analytics software serving clients from healthcare systems to manufacturing giants. Founded 12 years ago by tech entrepreneurs, Dataflow had grown from a garage startup to a mid-sized firm with 300 employees and annual revenue of $200 million. Sarah Chen, our chief financial officer, became my mentor during those early months. A brilliant woman in her 40s who had guided Dataflow through its initial public offering, Sarah understood both the technical and emotional sides of major business decisions. "Mergers aren't just about numbers," she explained during one of our weekly coffee meetings. "They're about people, cultures, and shared visions for the future." Robert Steinberg built his empire by treating partners as family members, not acquisition targets. I spent countless hours analyzing financial projections, market penetration strategies, and integration timelines. Working 60-hour weeks became routine as I developed comprehensive models showing how the merger would create synergies worth $800 million over 5 years. My calculations identified $23 million in immediate cost savings through eliminated redundancies and combined purchasing power. James Rodriguez, our IT director, provided technical insights that proved invaluable. A former military communications specialist, James, understood the security implications of merging two massive technology infrastructures. His expertise helped me craft realistic implementation schedules that European executives could trust. "The Germans appreciate precision," James told me while reviewing cybersecurity protocols. "They want to see every detail planned 3 steps ahead. Your methodical approach will resonate with their engineering culture." My first video conference with Steinberg International took place on a rainy November morning. Robert Steinberg appeared on the screen as a distinguished man in his 60s with silver hair and kind but penetrating blue eyes. His team included Dr. Klaus Weber, Chief Technology Officer, and Ingrid Hoffman, Director of European Operations. "Miss Martinez," Robert said in accented but perfect English, "David speaks highly of your analytical skills. We're interested in your perspective on market integration challenges." I presented my preliminary findings with confidence, outlining potential obstacles and proposed solutions. The European team asked detailed questions about regulatory compliance, workforce transition, and technology standardization. My preparation paid off as I addressed each concern with specific data and realistic timelines. Impressive, Dr. Weber commented after my presentation. Your understanding of European data privacy regulations shows remarkable depth for someone based in Texas. That call marked the beginning of a professional relationship that would define the next year of my life. Robert specifically requested that I remain involved throughout the merger process, praising my attention to detail and cultural sensitivity. David beamed with pride after the successful presentation. They're demanding you continue as lead coordinator, he told me privately. Robert rarely shows such immediate confidence in new team members. Spring brought intensive travel as I shuttled between Austin and Frankfurt, building relationships with Steinberg's executive team. Each trip deepened my understanding of their corporate culture and strengthened my conviction that the merger would benefit both organizations. During a particularly productive week in Germany, Robert invited me to dinner at a traditional gasthouse outside Frankfurt. Over schnitzel and local wine, he shared his vision for the combined companies. American innovation paired with German engineering creates something powerful, he said thoughtfully. Your work has convinced my board that Dataflow represents the perfect strategic partner. This merger will allow us to compete with the technology giants while maintaining our commitment to client service. I returned to Austin, energized by European enthusiasm for the deal. My detailed integration proposal included specific timelines for system migration, personnel transitions, and market expansion into Asian territories. The projections showed the merged entity reaching $1 billion in annual revenue within 3 years. Sarah reviewed my work with characteristic thoroughness, questioning every assumption and calculation. Her scrutiny strengthened my analysis and prepared me for the rigorous due diligence process ahead. This could transform Dataflow into a global player, she said after approving my final projections. Your work has created a roadmap for sustainable growth that honors both companies' cultures. By late spring, momentum was building toward a formal merger announcement. Legal teams were drafting preliminary agreements while I coordinated technical assessments and regulatory filings. Everything seemed perfectly aligned for success. Then David mentioned something that would change everything. During a routine status meeting, he casually noted that his daughter Victoria would be joining Dataflow after graduating from business school. She's brilliant, David said with fatherly pride. Wharton MBA with concentrations in corporate strategy and compliance. I'm thinking about creating a new position that would utilize her fresh perspective on regulatory requirements. The twist that would unravel months of careful work was already in motion, though I couldn't have imagined the devastation one person would bring to our carefully constructed plans. Victoria Hamilton made her entrance into data flow technologies like a force of nature that June morning. I was reviewing German contract translations when the elevator chimed and she stepped into our 20th floor offices wearing a $1,000 suit that screamed designer sophistication. Her blonde hair was styled in a perfect bob, and her blue eyes surveyed the workspace with the confidence of someone accustomed to getting her way. You must be Cleo, she said, approaching my desk with an extended hand and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I'm Victoria Hamilton, David's daughter. I've heard so much about your little European project. The word little stung, though I kept my expression neutral. Welcome to Dataflow. Your father mentioned you'd be joining us. Director of Corporate Compliance, she announced, settling into the chair across from my desk without invitation. I'll be implementing new oversight procedures to ensure we're meeting all regulatory requirements. From what I understand, international mergers can be quite complicated. Victoria was undeniably stunning with the kind of polished beauty that came from expensive schools and exclusive social circles. But something about her demeanor set me immediately on edge. She spoke with the authority of someone who had never been told no, never faced real challenges, never had to prove herself through anything other than academic credentials. I'd love to review your merger documentation, she continued, glancing at the financial models spread across my desk. Wharton emphasized the importance of comprehensive compliance audits before major transactions. Over the following days, Victoria established herself as a disruptive presence in our previously harmonious workplace. Despite having zero practical experience, she questioned established procedures with the confidence of a seasoned executive. Her new position as Director of Corporate Compliance was created specifically for her complete, with authority to review and approve major business decisions. The first sign of trouble came during a merger planning meeting with our legal team. Victoria interrupted senior attorney Margaret Thompson mid-sentence to suggest that our European regulatory strategy was amateurish and potentially liability creating. With respect, Margaret replied coolly, I've been handling international transactions for 15 years. Our approach has been approved by both American and German regulatory authorities. Victoria's laugh was crystalline and dismissive. Times change. Modern compliance requires more sophisticated oversight than previous generations understood. I watched Margaret's face flush with anger, but she maintained professional composure. After the meeting, she pulled me aside with obvious frustration. That young woman just questioned my competence based on business school theories, Margaret said. She has no idea what real-world merger compliance involves. Victoria's pattern of undermining experienced professionals became increasingly obvious. She criticized James's cybersecurity protocols despite knowing nothing about information technology. She questioned Sarah's financial projections while lacking any practical accounting experience. Most concerning, she began inserting herself into communications with Steinberg International. I think we should reconsider our approach to European data privacy compliance, Victoria announced during a video conference with Robert Steinberg's team. My research suggests we may be overlooking critical regulatory requirements. Dr. Weber's expression darkened as Victoria questioned months of careful planning. Ms. Hamilton, we have worked extensively with both American and German legal experts to ensure full compliance. Are you suggesting our attorneys are incompetent? Not incompetent, Victoria replied with false sweetness, just perhaps not current with the latest regulatory developments. The call ended awkwardly with Robert expressing concern about mixed messages from the data flow team. I spent an hour afterward reassuring him that our compliance strategy remained sound and unchanged. Victoria's interference escalated when she implemented new approval procedures that required her personal sign-off on all merger-related communications. Suddenly, every email to European partners needed compliance review. Every document required additional scrutiny. Every decision faced bureaucratic delays. This is about risk management, Victoria explained when I confronted her about the delays. Business school taught me that 90% of failed mergers result from inadequate compliance oversight. Her changes created chaos in our previously efficient workflow. Important documents sat on her desk for days awaiting approval. Urgent communications to Frankfurt required lengthy explanations of their compliance implications. Simple decisions became complex approval processes. Sarah expressed growing frustration during our weekly coffee meeting. She's treating experienced professionals like incompetent children, Sarah said. David needs to understand that his daughter's theoretical knowledge doesn't translate to practical expertise. The situation worsened when Victoria began questioning fundamental aspects of the merger structure. She suggested that Steinberg International's European labor laws might create unforeseen complications for American operations. She wondered aloud whether German environmental regulations could impact Dataflow's Texas operations. These are legitimate concerns, she insisted when I pointed out that we'd already addressed these issues months ago. Fresh eyes often spot problems that familiarity overlooks. But her fresh eyes were creating problems where none existed. European partners grew frustrated with repeated questions about settled matters. Robert Steinberg personally called David to express concern about the mixed messages coming from Dataflow's team. Victoria is obviously intelligent. David told me privately, but she may need time to understand how we operate here. Perhaps you could help her get up to speed on the merger details. I agreed, hoping that education might resolve the growing tension. I spent hours walking Victoria through our analysis, explaining the reasoning behind every decision, sharing months of correspondence with European partners. Instead of appreciating the education, Victoria used the information to find new areas for criticism. She questioned our financial projections, suggested alternative legal structures, and proposed delays for additional compliance reviews. The breaking point came when I discovered Victoria had been meeting privately with competing firms. Security footage showed her leaving the Tech Vision Corporation building after a 2-hour visit, carrying a briefcase and wearing a satisfied expression. TechVision was Dataflow's largest competitor, a aggressive company known for hostile takeovers and cost-cutting measures that destroyed company cultures. They had attempted to acquire Dataflow multiple times, always being rejected due to their reputation for eliminating jobs and dismantling innovative teams. The twist that would threaten everything we'd built was now impossible to ignore. Victoria wasn't just questioning our merger strategy. She was actively working against it. The question was whether I could prove it before she destroyed 2 years of careful work and $4 billion in potential value. The evidence of Victoria's sabotage became undeniable over the next 8 weeks. What had initially seemed like inexperience and overconfidence revealed itself as deliberate interference designed to undermine the Steinberg merger. I began documenting every suspicious incident, building a case that would eventually expose her true intentions. Victoria's new compliance procedures became weapons of obstruction. She implemented a mandatory review process requiring her personal approval for all international communications, creating bottlenecks that frustrated European partners. Critical documents mysteriously disappeared from her office, forcing us to recreate work and miss deadlines. "I'm sorry," Victoria would say with feigned concern, "but I seem to have misplaced those financial projections you needed me to review. Could you prepare new copies, and this time please include additional risk assessments?" Her demands for additional documentation became increasingly absurd. Simple email responses required compliance memoranda. Routine video conferences needed detailed agendas submitted 72 hours in advance. Every minor decision triggered requests for legal opinions and regulatory assessments. James Rodriguez became my ally in documenting Victoria's interference. As IT director, he had access to system logs that revealed disturbing patterns in Victoria's computer usage. She was accessing files far beyond her legitimate authority, downloading confidential merger documents, and spending hours researching areas outside her compliance responsibilities. "Look at this," James said, showing me digital forensics data on his secure tablet. She accessed the Steinberg financial models at 2:30 a.m. last Tuesday. Then she downloaded copies of our legal correspondence with German regulatory authorities. There's no legitimate compliance reason for her to need that information. The smoking gun came when James tracked Victoria's email activity. She had been forwarding confidential data flow documents to an external address registered to Tech Vision Corporation's legal department. The evidence showed systematic theft of proprietary information over multiple weeks. "This isn't incompetence," James said grimly. "This is corporate espionage." Victoria's personal attacks against me intensified as she sensed growing suspicion. She began questioning my qualifications during meetings, suggesting that my state school education hadn't prepared me for complex international negotiations. "Perhaps someone with more prestigious credentials should handle European communications," Victoria suggested during a board presentation. "Ivy League training provides superior preparation for sophisticated business relationships." Her comments about my background were calculated humiliations designed to undermine my authority. She questioned my expense reports, delayed my travel approvals, and criticized my presentation style in front of senior executives. Sarah Chen witnessed one particularly vicious attack during a budget review meeting. Victoria had challenged my projections for post-merger integration costs, claiming my calculations were amateurish and unrealistic. Cleo's analysis has been vetted by three independent accounting firms. Sarah intervened sharply. Her projections are not only accurate, but conservative compared to industry standards. Victoria's smile remained poisonous. I'm sure Cleo did her best with limited resources. Perhaps next time we should engage consultants with more sophisticated modeling capabilities. The personal nature of these attacks revealed Victoria's strategy. She wasn't just undermining the merger, she was destroying my credibility to eliminate me as an obstacle to her sabotage campaign. Meanwhile, her interference was damaging relationships with European partners. During one crucial video conference, Victoria provided outdated financial data that made data flow appear unstable and disorganized. Dr. Weber's confusion was evident as numbers contradicted previous presentations. Miss Martinez, Dr. Weber said carefully, these projections differ significantly from your earlier analysis. Has data flow's financial position deteriorated? I quickly corrected the misinformation, but the damage was done. European executives began questioning our internal coordination and attention to detail. Robert Steinberg privately expressed concern about the mixed messages coming from our team. Victoria's sabotage reached new heights when she scheduled mandatory compliance training during a critical presentation to Steinberg's board of directors. The training covered basic employment law topics, completely unrelated to merger activities, but Victoria insisted that all merger team members attend. Regulatory compliance takes priority over everything else, she announced. Missing this training could expose data flow to significant liability. I was forced to miss the board presentation, leaving David to handle complex financial questions without proper preparation. The Europeans postponed their decision pending clarification of issues I could have easily addressed. The pattern became clear. Victoria was creating crises that required her intervention, positioning herself as essential while making everyone else appear incompetent. She questioned every decision, delayed every approval, and complicated every process. Her most damaging intervention came when she disputed our timeline for technology integration. Without consulting James or the technical team, Victoria declared that our projected implementation schedule was unrealistic and potentially dangerous. Rushing complex system integration creates cybersecurity vulnerabilities, she announced during a joint meeting with Steinberg's technical staff. Professional compliance standards require extended testing periods to ensure data security. Dr. Weber's team had already approved our timeline based on extensive technical consultations. Victoria's last-minute objections suggested either incompetence or deliberate sabotage. The Germans grew increasingly frustrated with data flow's apparent inability to maintain consistent positions. James and I worked evenings and weekends building evidence of Victoria's interference. We documented every delayed approval, every misplaced document, every contradictory statement that had damaged European relationships. The breakthrough came when I intercepted a phone conversation between Victoria and an unknown caller. Hidden in a supply closet near her office, I heard Victoria's voice clearly through the thin walls. The Steinberg deal will never happen on my watch, she said confidently. I've created enough obstacles to delay the signing indefinitely. By next quarter, they'll be desperate enough to consider alternatives. When I confronted Victoria about the conversation, she claimed she had been discussing a different client matter. But her hostility toward me became undeniable and her sabotage efforts intensified rather than diminished. The twist that would determine the merger's fate was accelerating toward its climax. Victoria's true intentions were now clear, but proving them would require catching her in an act so obvious that even her father couldn't ignore the evidence. Armed with James's digital evidence and my own observations, I launched a careful investigation into Victoria's true motives and connections. What I discovered would expose a conspiracy that threatened not just the Steinberg merger, but data flow's independence and the jobs of hundreds of employees. Working late into the nights, James and I analyzed Victoria's computer activities with forensic precision. The patterns revealed systematic theft of confidential information, but the scope of her espionage was larger than we had initially suspected. Look at these access logs, James said, pointing to his monitor in the dim light of his office. She's been downloading files about our client relationships, proprietary software algorithms, and employee compensation structures. This goes way beyond merger sabotage. The external email address receiving Victoria's forwarded documents traced back to TechVision Corporation, but deeper investigation revealed the specific recipient was Marcus Thompson, TechVision's head of acquisitions. Marcus had orchestrated 3 hostile takeovers in the past 5 years, each time using inside information to destabilize target companies before making aggressive buyout offers. This is how they operate. I realized studying TechVision's acquisition history. They plant insiders to create internal chaos, then swoop in as saviors, offering to rescue struggling companies at below market prices. Victoria's strategy became crystalline as I researched TechVision's methods. By sabotaging the Steinberg merger, she would make data flow appear unstable and poorly managed. TechVision would then offer a rescue acquisition that the board might accept out of desperation. Sarah joined our investigation after I shared the preliminary findings. Her financial expertise revealed another layer to the conspiracy that chilled me to the bone. Look at these compensation structures, Sarah said, examining documents I'd obtained from Victoria's computer. TechVision is offering her $2 million in consulting fees if they successfully acquire Dataflow. That's not a job offer, that's a bribe. The full scope of Victoria's betrayal emerged as we connected the dots. She had been recruited by TechVision before even joining Dataflow specifically to sabotage the Steinberg merger and create conditions favorable for a hostile takeover. Her father has no idea, Sarah said sadly. David genuinely believes he's helping his daughter start her career. He has no clue she's being paid to destroy his company. The ethical dilemma kept me awake at night. Exposing Victoria would devastate David, potentially ending my relationship with the best boss I'd ever had. But allowing her sabotage to continue would destroy the merger and possibly the entire company. James discovered that Victoria had been providing TechVision with our merger timeline, giving them perfect information about when to make their counter offer for maximum disruptive impact. Every delay she created served TechVision's strategy of making data flow appear disorganized and unreliable. She's playing a sophisticated game, James observed, creating just enough chaos to damage our credibility without making her interference obvious to casual observers. Victoria's attacks on me personally were part of this strategy. By undermining my authority and expertise, she weakened Dataflow's negotiating position with European partners. My removal from the merger team would eliminate the person who understood Steinberg's requirements most thoroughly. The pressure was affecting my health and personal relationships. I was working 18-hour days documenting Victoria's sabotage while simultaneously trying to maintain the merger timeline. My family worried about my exhaustion, while my few friends complained about my constant unavailability. "You're burning yourself out," my sister Laura warned during a rare phone call. "Whatever's happening at work isn't worth destroying your health." But the stakes were too high to step back. $4 billion in value, hundreds of jobs, and Dataflow's future as an independent company hung in the balance. Victoria's sabotage was accelerating toward the final merger deadline, and time was running out to stop her. The smoking gun came when I discovered TechVision's formal acquisition strategy document in Victoria's email folders. The 20-page plan outlined exactly how they intended to use inside information to destabilize data flow and force a distressed sale. Phase 1, internal disruption through compliance obstacles and management confusion. I read aloud to James and Sarah. Phase 2, damage relationships with existing merger partners through inconsistent messaging and delayed responses. Phase 3, present rescue acquisition offer when target company becomes desperate. We were deep into Phase 2 with Phase 3 approaching rapidly. TechVision's timeline called for their formal offer to arrive exactly 48 hours before the Steinberg merger signing, creating maximum pressure on Dataflow's board. "This document proves premeditation," Sarah said grimly. Victoria isn't just being opportunistic. She's following a detailed plan to destroy us. The conspiracy included specific tactics for discrediting me personally. Victoria had been instructed to question my qualifications, delay my approvals, and create situations where I would appear incompetent or unreliable to European partners. They've researched you extensively, James noted, showing me background reports TechVision had compiled about my education, work history, and personal relationships. This level of preparation suggests they view you as the primary obstacle to their acquisition. Robert Steinberg's growing frustration with data flow's internal coordination was exactly what TechVision wanted. Their strategy depended on making the European partners lose confidence in our ability to execute the merger successfully. The final piece of evidence came when I discovered Victoria's personal financial records accidentally forwarded in one of her TechVision email chains. She had already received $500,000 in consulting fees, with the remaining $1.5 million to be paid upon successful completion of the acquisition. She's been bought and paid for, I said, staring at the bank transfer records. This isn't about business strategy or family loyalty, it's pure financial corruption. The twist that would determine everything was now documented beyond any reasonable doubt. Victoria Hamilton was a corporate spy working to destroy data flow from within, and her next move would either succeed spectacularly or backfire catastrophically, depending on how I chose to respond. With ironclad evidence of Victoria's conspiracy, I faced a crucial decision about how to expose her treachery without destroying David's trust and the company's stability. Sarah, James, and I developed a plan that would catch Victoria in an act so obvious that even her most loyal defenders couldn't ignore her betrayal. "We need to make her incriminate herself publicly," Sarah said during our clandestine meeting in the parking garage below Dataflow's offices. "Confronting her privately gives her the opportunity to deny everything and destroy evidence." The trap required creating false information that Victoria would be compelled to steal and share with TechVision. James suggested fabricating documents about a fictional backup merger that would be even more attractive than the Steinberg deal. "She can't resist the opportunity to sabotage something bigger," James reasoned. "If we make her believe Dataflow has an even better option, she'll move aggressively to undermine it." I spent 2 days crafting elaborate financial projections for a fake merger with Nakamura Industries, a fictional Japanese technology conglomerate. The documents showed a potential $8 billion deal that would dwarf the Steinberg merger and transform Dataflow into a global powerhouse overnight. The fabricated materials included detailed financial models, forged email correspondence with imaginary Japanese executives, and realistic timeline projections for regulatory approval in both countries. Everything was designed to appear authentic while containing subtle markers that would prove the documents were fake. "The bait has to be irresistible," I explained to Sarah and James. "Victoria needs to believe she's discovered Dataflow's secret backup plan that threatens TechVision's entire acquisition strategy." James planted the false documents in a secure folder that Victoria could access but wouldn't normally have reason to review. We created digital breadcrumbs suggesting that David and I had been secretly developing the Japanese alternative while publicly pursuing the German merger. According to these projections, the fake documents suggested the Nakamura deal would provide superior financial returns while eliminating regulatory complications associated with European partnerships. Victoria took the bait within 24 hours. James tracked her accessing the fabricated files at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night, spending over an hour reviewing the detailed projections and forged correspondence. She downloaded everything, James reported the next morning. The access logs show she copied the entire folder to an external drive. We didn't have to wait long for confirmation that Victoria had shared the false intelligence with TechVision. Marcus Thompson's email response arrived in Victoria's inbox 16 hours after her initial discovery, praising her for uncovering Dataflow's double-dealing strategy. "This information changes everything," Marcus wrote. "If Dataflow has a Japanese backup plan, We need to accelerate our timeline and present our offer before they can finalize anything with Asia. Victoria's response revealed the full extent of her treachery and her growing desperation to complete Tech Vision's acquisition before losing her substantial payday. I can delay the Japanese negotiations, Victoria replied, but you need to submit your formal offer within the next 2 weeks. My father is starting to suspect that someone is leaking information, and I can't maintain this position indefinitely. The email exchange provided undeniable proof of Victoria's corporate espionage, complete with specific dollar amounts for her compensation and detailed plans for sabotaging Dataflow's legitimate business relationships. Armed with irrefutable evidence, I requested a private meeting with Victoria in her office. The confrontation would either result in her confession or her complete exposure, but either way, her sabotage campaign would end. Victoria, we need to discuss some inconsistencies I've discovered in your compliance work, I said, sitting across from her polished desk with a thick folder of evidence. Her blue eyes remained steady, but I noticed her hands tighten slightly around her gold pen. Of course, Cleo, I'm always happy to clarify my recommendations. I opened the folder and placed printed copies of her email correspondence with Tech Vision across her desk. Her face went pale as she recognized the incriminating evidence. What is this supposed to be? She asked, but her voice lacked its usual confidence. Proof that you've been selling Dataflow's confidential information to our largest competitor, I replied calmly, including the fake Nakamura documents you stole and forwarded to Marcus Thompson yesterday. Victoria's composure cracked as she realized the implications of my statement. Fake documents? What are you talking about? Nakamura Industries doesn't exist, I explained. We created those files specifically to test whether someone was stealing our merger information. You failed the test spectacularly. The silence stretched between us as Victoria processed the trap she'd walked into. Her perfect facade crumbled as she realized her sabotage campaign was over. You can't prove anything, she said finally, but without conviction. These emails could be fabricated. I placed additional evidence on her desk, bank transfer records showing Tech Vision payments, Marcus Thompson's acquisition strategy document, and digital forensics reports, tracking her unauthorized access to confidential files. We have 6 weeks of documented evidence, I said. Every email, every file access, every conversation with Tech Vision is recorded and authenticated. Victoria's mask slipped completely as she abandoned her pretense of innocence. You have no idea what you're interfering with, she said coldly. Tech Vision's offer will save this company from David's misguided European fantasy. Her justification revealed the depth of her delusion and her complete disregard for her father's leadership. The Steinberg merger is naive optimism, she continued. Tech Vision offers real financial returns and proven management expertise. At the cost of hundreds of jobs and the destruction of Dataflow's innovative culture, I countered. Your Tech Vision friends will gut this company and sell the pieces. Victoria's response chilled me with its calculated coldness. Business isn't about sentiment, Cleo. It's about maximizing shareholder value through strategic optimization. She leaned back in her chair with renewed confidence, apparently deciding that threats were her best remaining strategy. Besides, who's going to believe you? I'm David Hamilton's daughter. You're a middle management analyst with a grudge. The threat revealed Victoria's fundamental miscalculation. She believed her family connection would protect her from the consequences of corporate espionage and fraud. Your father is an honorable man, I said, gathering the evidence from her desk. He'll do the right thing when he sees proof of what you've done. Victoria's laugh was sharp and bitter. David will never sacrifice his daughter's career for some merger that may or may not succeed. Family loyalty trumps business relationships. But as I left her office, I knew Victoria had made a fatal error in her assessment of David's character. The twist that would determine her fate was about to unfold, and her arrogance had blinded her to the consequences of her betrayal. The revelation of Victoria's treachery created an immediate crisis that threatened to tear Dataflow apart just days before the merger signing. TechVision's formal acquisition offer arrived exactly as their stolen intelligence had predicted, throwing the board into chaos and forcing David Hamilton to choose between his daughter and his company. The emergency board meeting was called for Thursday morning after Marcus Thompson's hostile takeover bid landed on David's desk with devastating precision. The offer valued Dataflow at $3.2 billion, significantly less than the Steinberg merger, but structured to appeal to board members worried about regulatory delays and integration risks. TechVision is offering immediate cash payment, board member Patricia Williams noted during the heated discussion. The Steinberg deal requires 18 months of complex integration that could face unexpected obstacles. David looked haggard as he reviewed TechVision's proposal, unaware that his daughter had provided the inside information that made the timing so perfectly disruptive. Victoria sat at the conference table maintaining her facade of innocent compliance oversight while watching her sabotage campaign reach its intended climax. This offer raises serious questions about our European strategy, she said with practiced concern. Perhaps we should postpone the Steinberg signing until we can properly evaluate this alternative. Sarah Chen immediately recognized Victoria's manipulation and intervened with financial analysis that exposed TechVision's hidden agenda. Their offer includes performance clauses that would reduce the actual payout to $2.8 billion, Sarah explained. More importantly, their integration plan calls for eliminating 40% of Dataflow's workforce within 6 months. The human cost of TechVision's acquisition model became clear as Sarah detailed their track record with previous targets. 3 companies had been dismantled and sold for parts after TechVision eliminated their innovative teams and absorbed their client bases. They're not interested in partnership, Sarah continued. They want to eliminate a competitor while acquiring our technology and customer relationships at below-market prices. James Rodriguez supported Sarah's analysis with technical evidence about TechVision's true intentions for Dataflow's innovative software platforms. They've specifically targeted our cloud analytics algorithms, James reported. Internal documents show they plan to integrate our technology into their existing systems while terminating our research and development operations. Victoria attempted to counter these revelations by questioning the reliability of insider information about TechVision's plans, not realizing that James was quoting from documents she had provided to Marcus Thompson. We can't base major decisions on speculation about competitor intentions, Victoria argued. TechVision is a publicly traded company with fiduciary responsibilities to their shareholders, but her defense of TechVision only reinforced suspicions about her motivations and loyalties. Board members began questioning why the compliance director was advocating so strongly for a competing offer. Robert Steinberg's phone call that afternoon added international pressure to the growing crisis. The European CEO expressed frustration with mixed signals from Dataflow's team and demanded clarification about their commitment to the merger. Marcus Thompson contacted me directly, Robert said during the tense video conference. He suggested that Dataflow is reconsidering our partnership in favor of domestic alternatives. If this is true, I need to know immediately. David's shock was genuine as he realized TechVision had been conducting parallel negotiations while Dataflow publicly pursued the European merger. Robert, I assure you that we remain committed to our partnership. I have no idea how TechVision obtained information about our timeline, but Robert's trust was clearly shaken by the apparent coordination between TechVision's offer and the merger signing schedule. This kind of market manipulation suggests either incompetence or deliberate deception, Robert said coldly. Neither reflects well on Dataflow's management. The call ended with Robert giving Dataflow 48 hours to confirm their commitment or withdraw from merger negotiations entirely. The ultimatum created exactly the pressure TechVision's strategy required to force a quick decision in their favor. Victoria seized the opportunity to increase pressure for accepting TechVision's offer. European partnerships are notoriously unreliable, she told the board. We can't risk losing both opportunities because of romantic attachments to international relationships. Her choice of words revealed more than she intended. The phrase romantic attachments was lifted directly from TechVision's acquisition strategy document, a connection that James and I immediately recognized. Meanwhile, I worked desperately to preserve relationships with Steinberg International while building my case against Victoria. The evidence of her espionage was overwhelming, but timing the revelation required careful coordination to minimize damage to David and the company. We need to expose her before the final board vote, Sarah urged during our strategy session. If TechVision's offer passes, all our evidence becomes academic. But confronting Victoria publicly would create additional chaos at the worst possible moment. David's emotional state was already fragile as he struggled with divided loyalties between European partners who had lost confidence and domestic competitors offering financial security. The solution came when Victoria overplayed her hand by implementing new dress code restrictions designed to target me personally. Her updated employee handbook included specific requirements for professional attire that seemed calculated to exclude my wardrobe choices. Effective immediately, Victoria announced via company-wide email, all employees must conform to enhanced professional appearance standards. Compliance violations may result in immediate disciplinary action. The dress code weapon was Victoria's final gambit to eliminate me before the merger signing. She had correctly identified that Robert Steinberg's specific request for my involvement made my removal crucial to sabotaging the European deal. She's planning to fire you at the signing ceremony, James warned after intercepting Victoria's communications with TechVision. Marcus Thompson specifically instructed her to remove you from the building before Steinberg arrives. The trap was set for Friday morning when Robert would arrive for the merger signing. Victoria intended to publicly humiliate me for dress code violations, forcing my removal from the ceremony, and invalidating the merger agreement that required my signature on transition documents. But the twist that would determine everything was about to backfire spectacularly. Victoria's arrogance had blinded her to the consequences of attacking someone who had spent months building genuine relationships with European partners. Her sabotage campaign was about to collide with the loyalty and respect I had earned through honest work and authentic partnership. Friday morning arrived with the weight of destiny as I stood in Dataflow's marble lobby knowing that Victoria's final attack would determine the fate of the $4 billion merger. I had chosen my navy blazer carefully, ensuring it met every reasonable standard of professional dress while anticipating Victoria's manufactured compliance violation. Robert Steinberg emerged from the black sedan with his characteristic dignity, accompanied by Dr. Weber and Ingrid Hoffman. Their presence transformed the lobby into an international stage where corporate futures would be decided in the next few minutes. Victoria's timing was perfect as she clicked across the marble floor in designer heels, waving the updated employee handbook like a weapon of corporate destruction. Her voice carried across the lobby with theatrical authority. "Did you even read the dress code?" she sneered, pointing at my blazer with practiced disdain. "You're fired." The words echoed through the silence as Robert Steinberg stepped through the glass doors, witnessing my public humiliation with growing alarm. His blue eyes moved from Victoria's triumphant expression to my shocked face, processing the scene with European precision. "Cleo," Robert said warmly, approaching with open arms for his customary greeting hug, "ready to sign the merger." My smile felt fragile as the irony of the situation crystallized. "Sorry, Robert. She just fired me. No deal." The transformation in Robert's demeanor was immediate and terrifying. His kind eyes turned glacial as he focused on Victoria with the intensity of someone accustomed to destroying business enemies. "You did what?" he asked in a voice that could freeze molten steel. Victoria's confidence wavered as she realized her sabotage had just exploded in her face. "I'm enforcing company compliance standards. This is a business decision." "Business decision." Robert's accent made the words sound like a death sentence. "You have just terminated the one person whose involvement I specifically required for this merger to proceed." The lobby filled with data flow employees drawn by the commotion, creating an audience for Victoria's spectacular miscalculation. David Hamilton appeared from the elevator, his face pale with confusion and dawning horror. Victoria, what have you done? David asked, his voice breaking as he understood the implications. Dr. Weber stepped forward with Germanic precision. Miss Hamilton, your contract with Steinberg International specifically states that Miss Martinez must serve as transition coordinator. Without her involvement, this merger cannot proceed. Victoria's beautiful facade cracked as she realized the magnitude of her error. You can find another coordinator. Cleo isn't irreplaceable. On the contrary, Robert replied coldly. She is exactly irreplaceable. Miss Martinez has spent 18 months building relationships with our team, understanding our requirements and earning our trust. No substitute exists. James Rodriguez appeared with Sarah Chen, both carrying thick folders of evidence. Their timing was perfect, as Victoria's sabotage campaign collapsed under the weight of her own arrogance. David, Sarah said quietly, we need to show you something about Victoria's activities over the past 6 months. The evidence presentation unfolded like a courtroom drama in the marble lobby. James displayed email records showing Victoria's communications with TechVision. Sarah revealed financial documents proving her substantial payments for corporate espionage. I provided the fake Nakamura documents that had trapped her in undeniable theft. This proves systematic betrayal of company confidences, David said, his voice hollow with devastation. Victoria, how could you do this to your own family's business? Victoria's response revealed the depth of her delusion and contempt for everything Dataflow represented. TechVision offered a better deal. I was protecting shareholder value from your emotional attachment to European fantasies. Protecting Robert's voice carried decades of business wisdom and moral authority. You have attempted to destroy a partnership built on mutual respect and shared vision. This is not business. This is treachery. The moral weight of Victoria's betrayal settled over the lobby like a toxic cloud. Her father's face reflected the agony of a parent discovering their child's capacity for deception and greed. I'm calling security to escort Victoria from the building, David announced. And I'm calling our attorneys to discuss criminal charges for corporate espionage. Victoria's final gambit was pure desperation. Fire me if you want, but the Steinberg deal is dead. You can't proceed without proper compliance oversight. Actually, I said with growing confidence, we can proceed immediately. I've maintained parallel compliance documentation specifically to prevent sabotage from interfering with legitimate business operations. Robert's smile returned as he realized the merger could be salvaged. Miss Martinez, your foresight continues to impress me. Perhaps we should discuss your future with the combined organization. The conversation that followed transformed my professional life in ways I had never imagined. Robert offered me the position of Vice President of International Operations with Steinberg International, including oversight of the data flow integration and a salary that doubled my current compensation. Your expertise in cross-border partnerships has proven invaluable, Robert explained. We need leaders who understand both American innovation and European business culture. The merger signing proceeded in the conference room while Victoria was escorted from the building by security guards. Her corporate espionage had failed catastrophically, leaving TechVision without their inside source and facing potential legal action for attempted theft of trade secrets. 6 months later, the merger had exceeded every projection we had developed. The combined organization was generating record revenues while maintaining both companies' innovative cultures. Dataflow's technology had opened new markets across Europe and Asia, while Steinberg's engineering excellence had improved our American operations. David Hamilton had rebuilt his relationship with his team while learning painful lessons about separating family loyalty from business judgment. Victoria was working at a smaller firm, having accepted responsibility for her actions and begun the slow process of rebuilding her reputation through honest work. I let my education convince me that I knew better than experienced professionals, Victoria admitted during our only post-crisis conversation. My arrogance nearly destroyed my father's life's work. Sarah Chen had been promoted to Chief Operations Officer of the American Division, while James Rodriguez led cybersecurity for the entire merged organization. Their loyalty during the crisis had been rewarded with expanded responsibilities and the respect of European partners. My new role as Vice President of International Operations allowed me to develop partnerships with Asian technology companies, expanding our global reach while maintaining the ethical standards that Robert valued above short term profits. Business success requires more than financial models, I reflected during a presentation to new employees. It demands integrity, patience, and genuine respect for the people you serve. The life lesson that emerged from Victoria's sabotage campaign was profound and personally transformative. Competence combined with character ultimately triumphs over privilege and manipulation. Building authentic relationships based on mutual respect creates value that no amount of scheming can destroy. The merger's success validated everything we had worked toward while proving that ethical leadership produces sustainable results. $4 billion in value had been created not through corporate manipulation, but through honest partnership and shared vision for the future. Standing in my new office overlooking the Colorado River, I understood that Victoria's betrayal had ultimately strengthened both companies by forcing us to examine our values and commit to principled leadership. Her sabotage had failed because it was built on deception rather than genuine value creation. The happy ending felt earned rather than given the result of choosing integrity over expedience, even when the cost seemed unbearable. Dataflow and Steinberg International had become something greater together than either could have achieved alone, proving that the best business outcomes emerge from authentic partnership rather than manipulation or force. What workplace challenges have you faced that tested your integrity and values? Share your experiences in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you navigated difficult situations while staying true to your principles. If this story resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe for more real-life workplace stories, and share it with anyone who might benefit from these lessons about professional integrity. Thank you for listening, and remember that honest work and authentic relationships always create the most lasting success.